The making of a Roman soldier ***. The Roman Empire, spanning centuries, was built on discipline, strategy, and unwavering loyalty. At the heart of this vast empire were its soldiers, the legionaries. These men, often ordinary citizens from towns and villages across the empire, would undergo a transformation unlike anything we could imagine today. The life of a Roman soldier was not glamorous. There were no cheers, no parades, no stories of adventure to soften the reality. Their days were measured in sweat, discipline, and endurance. To understand the might of Rome, one must first understand the forging of its soldiers, their training, their struggles, and their unwavering commitment to survive. Imagine standing in a dusty training ground, under the relentless sun, your armor heavy, your muscles aching, the air thick with dust and tension. This is where ordinary men became instruments of Roman power. The recruit's first steps. Every soldier's journey began with recruitment. A young man, often barely in his 20s, would be chosen for service. He left behind family, home, and any semblance of a normal life. His days of leisure were gone. In their place, a strict routine designed to forge resilience, endurance, and obedience. The first test was physical. Recruits would march for miles in full armor, sometimes 20 kilometers or more, with their weapons and packs. Their shields, swords, and spears were heavy, but carrying them was non-negotiable. It was not merely exercise, it was the first lesson in endurance. In those early weeks, fatigue was constant. Blisters formed, muscles screamed, and the recruits were tested not just physically, but mentally. They had to learn that discomfort was not an obstacle, it was a teacher. And every command, every march, every repetitive drill was a step toward survival. For many, these weeks were a battle against the self. Some would collapse, some would cry, and some would find a hidden strength they did not know they possessed. The trainers, often seasoned veterans, watched silently, their eyes sharp, their expectations higher than any mountain. Weapons and combat drills. After enduring the marches, the recruits faced their next challenge, mastering the weapons of Rome. The gladius, the short sword of a legionary, was deceptively simple in design but deadly in combat. Soldiers practiced thrusts, swings, and parries for hours, day after day, until their movements were precise and almost instinctive. Spears and pilums, heavy javelins designed to pierce enemy lines, became extensions of their own arms. Soldiers learned to throw them accurately while exhausted from long marches. They trained in formations, practicing the famed testudo, or tortoise formation, where shields overlapped to protect against projectiles. But it wasn't just technique that mattered. Combat drills were brutal. Recruits sparred with one another under the watchful eyes of trainers, often suffering cuts and bruises. Pain was constant. The point was not to win a fight, but to survive it, to keep moving even when the body screamed for rest. Imagine the clanging of metal in the early morning, dust rising with each step, the sound of commands barking across the training ground. Every day was a small battle, a preparation for the horrors that awaited on distant battlefields. The discipline of the body ***. A Roman soldier's body was their most valuable asset, and discipline was paramount. Physical fitness was maintained with relentless exercises, running, jumping, carrying heavy loads, and even swimming across rivers fully armed. Training often began at dawn. Soldiers were awakened by the sound of horns, rubbing the sleep from their eyes, only to face a routine that would push them to the brink. Their food was simple: grains, vegetables, occasionally meat. They ate to sustain strength, not for pleasure. Sleep was also regimented. Soldiers slept in barracks or tents, often on hard surfaces, learning to rest lightly, ready to rise at a moment's notice. This was training for combat, where the line between life and death was measured in seconds. In these moments, away from battles and glory, soldiers developed a rhythm, a resilience, a mind-body connection that would allow them to endure unimaginable hardships. Endurance marches ***. One of the most defining features of Roman military training was the endurance march. Soldiers were forced to cover long distances under strict time constraints, carrying heavy packs filled with equipment, rations, and weapons. These marches tested more than strength, they tested determination. Feet bled, blisters grew, legs trembled, but there was no option to stop. The commanders demanded speed and precision. Soldiers learned to push beyond pain, to ignore exhaustion, and to keep moving, step by step, toward a goal that seemed impossible. The emotional toll of these marches was immense. Recruits thought about home, families, and simpler lives. Yet they pressed on, forging an unspoken bond with their comrades. Endurance became a shared language of survival, a code that connected every soldier in the legion. Camp life and drills ***. Training extended beyond physical exercises. Soldiers were drilled in camp life, building fortifications, digging trenches, and setting up camps quickly and efficiently. Every task was an exercise in discipline. They learned to obey commands instantly, without hesitation. The slightest mistake could cost a man his life, not just in battle, but in the unforgiving hierarchy of Roman discipline. Punishments for errors were harsh: extra drills, public shaming, or even physical punishment. Yet amidst the rigor, there was a sense of purpose. Every action, every task, was preparing them for survival. Even in moments of fatigue and pain, soldiers felt themselves becoming part of something larger than themselves, the unstoppable force of the Roman army. Psychological training ***. The brutality of Roman military training wasn't limited to the physical. Soldiers were trained to withstand fear, to remain calm amidst chaos, and to act decisively in life-or-death situations. Trainers would simulate battles with loud noises, mock attacks, and controlled chaos. Soldiers learned to block out panic, to trust in their training, and to function as a single, cohesive unit. Fear was not denied, it was harnessed, transformed into focus and determination. Many recruits found this mentally exhausting. Nights were spent wrestling with anxiety, imagining the battlefield horrors they had yet to face. But slowly, through repetition and discipline, they learned a strange form of serenity, a calmness that came from knowing they had endured far worse than any single battle could bring. Brotherhood and camaraderie ***. Perhaps the most vital aspect of a Roman soldier's training was the bonds formed with fellow legionaries. Shared hardship creates a connection that words cannot describe. Marching for hours, sparring until exhaustion, sharing meager meals, these experiences forged loyalty stronger than steel. In the quiet moments, soldiers would talk of home, of loved ones, and of dreams that seemed distant. Yet, in the shared struggle, they found a family among their comrades. This camaraderie became a source of strength, a lifeline in the chaos of war. It was this human connection, more than any sword or shield, that allowed them to endure the relentless demands of military life. Preparation for battle ***. By the time training concluded, the recruits had transformed. Ordinary men had become disciplined soldiers, capable of enduring pain, fatigue, and fear. Their bodies were strong, their minds sharp, and their spirits resilient. But transformation came at a cost. Many bore scars, both visible and invisible. Some had lost friends, some had lost illusions of home, and some had lost pieces of themselves. Yet they carried forward, knowing that their training had prepared them for the ultimate test, battle. The battlefield awaited, but unlike untrained men, these soldiers faced it with confidence born of relentless preparation. Every drill, every march, every hardship had forged a legionary capable of remarkable endurance, courage, and precision. The human cost of discipline ***. The training routine of Roman soldiers was brutal, unforgiving, and relentless. Yet, it was this very discipline that built the backbone of one of history's greatest empires. It is easy to romanticize the might of Rome, the victories, the conquests, the glory. But beneath the tales of triumph were ordinary men, shaped by sweat, pain, and shared struggle. They endured hardship beyond comprehension, not for fame or fortune, but for survival, loyalty, and the empire that depended on them. As we reflect on their lives, we can see the quiet heroism in their discipline. In the early mornings, the long marches, the endless drills, there is a story of human resilience, of transformation, and of courage that echoes across the centuries. So, as you drift into sleep, imagine the quiet strength of a Roman soldier, the measured steps on dusty training grounds, the soft clanging of swords, the unspoken bonds of comrades, and the human heart that endured it all. This is the story of how men became legends, and how discipline, endurance, and resilience created the very foundation of an empire. Soft pause. Gentle fade-out music.